Hello and welcome to another episode of the Top Flight Show. I'm Rich Morrell, and joining me on the sofa in his fresh new Top Flight t-shirt, it is Mr. Race Director, Chrissy P.
Oh, it's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I went for the wrong one there.
We're branded out today, like new tees on the go.
Lovely new tees. I do love the logo. It just goes so well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Translatable to the modern era.
Absolutely.
I actually got a henna tattoo
Of Top Flight.
Yeah.
I feel like you need to go full on though. You need to get some ink. Do you have any tattoos?
No.
First one, gotta be Top Flight.
Yeah, but when I was
Truly.
away on a holiday in the summer, my wife and daughter got little henna tattoos. So they tried to get me involved, and I was like, yeah, I've got an idea. Got Top Flight.
Nice. Always on brand.
Show the dedication. You know?
Mr. Top Flight himself.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't do it very well, but...
Yeah. Right, so Parrzy, what we're going to talk about today, I feel like we can't do a podcast without recapping the World Champs.
Yeah, I mean, what championships it was. I think Tokyo, obviously with it having the Olympics, during the whole COVID thing, they deserved to actually use them venues properly because, the Olympics was a bit of a damp squib in terms of, well, I mean, the performances at the Olympics were great, but without any audience, without any crowd, it was like so forced, wasn't it? It was just a surreal time. So when the World Championships was then also at Tokyo, it was like, oh yeah, that's actually good. They're getting to use it because there's a bit of a trend now, isn't there? Because you had London 2012,
and then the World
2017. Yeah. And I got to go to that whereas I didn't actually get to go to the Olympics, which just because it was sold out. I went to the basketball, but I didn't go to the athletics, which was a bit gutting.
Yeah.
But I went to the World Championships, although the stadium was smaller, because for the Olympics it had a bigger capacity. Mm-hmm. So it was great that it got to be in Tokyo. It looked like they did a fantastic job with it.
It did, yeah. I thought it was good. You know what? I was like, the way that the programs worked out with the being able to watch like the finals during the day and stuff like that, it was quite good to see that. The only thing was like, you know, if you wanted to catch the heats of something and they're on in the morning session, or like the marathons, I remember like waking up at like 3 a.m. just to check the results of the marathon, and then when you see it and you're getting all revved up, you're like, oh man, then I can't get back to sleep. But overall, I thought like the timings of the finals and all that, it worked well for the UK audience, definitely.
Yeah, it's as if they put a lot of emphasis on that, because I feel like often these things they put them on for American audiences, but why not put it on for I guess the Asia and the European audience? It did seem like lots of people were watching it, as in people, not just our mates through running, but people like in the wider community seem to be engaged with it and talking about it. It felt like people were actually, there's an athletics world championships going on, whereas often you've got a big engagement in the Olympics and then not as much with everything else. So I thought it was a great championships. I was pretty engaged. I didn't actually watch the marathons, but I feel like I was put off watching the marathons by all of the talk about the conditions, and I was like, this is going to be a war of attrition. I'm not getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning or whenever it was on to watch that, because it felt like the athletes were up against it.
Yeah, there were.
And there's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, about...
Yeah, St. Cole's been, talking about the climate and picking where they base championships based on the climate, which I think is something... It's one of them things. It's like, it's the weather, like advantages and disadvantages, like some athletes significantly, which, I guess you can argue like things like a game's being at altitude and stuff like that, how that would play out. So I think, there's a place for definitely scoping them things, because what you don't want to do is start endangering athletes' health based on the climate, or really seeing like a massive tail off in performances because of the climate that they're competing in. Tell you one thing I think they need to sort.
That was the same with the football, though, wasn't it? Because, we've moved World Cups around the winter, and the traditionalist inverted commas aren't happy, but it's very Europe-centric.
Yeah.
It's such a Europe-centric mentality, because even if you think about the Diamond League still, even though they've been global for a long period of time now, we're biased. We hook onto all the European ones more because they've got more of that history. It's as if like, the season really starts when it's in Europe. So maybe we need to climb down from a high horse with that.
Yeah.
And it is fantastic for, football and athletics to be global sports and to go to I know there's money involved, so there's always going to be that like cynical response if you put an Olympics in Saudi Arabia, because the Olympics will say, oh, well, we're trying to go to new markets, to new areas that we haven't been to before for fairness. But everybody else will go, yeah, well, it's just about money. Somebody's paying you a wage, like that World Club Cup, stuff like that. So I guess there's a balance. And if you were to be totally neutral on it, you would say it should really go around the world. But then what about this? Yeah, what about the athletes with that? So where are you going to put it? Because we've had Summer Olympics in Australia, in Sydney, and we're having another one, aren't we, in Brisbane, 2032?
Yeah,
2032 in Brisbane.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see. Are they going to put it later and later? I think having the World Championships in September was a really good idea. I think that's worked well, but still obviously incredibly hot in Tokyo. But how far back can you push it whilst getting the athletes to continue the momentum? Because going from another angle here, you can't have athletes competing 12 months of the year. So you do have to have this like ebb and flow. It doesn't work like other sports where you can be absolutely on it for most part of the year and have a short break.
Well, I think we've seen that
peak and
with the
trough
performances. I think, like, you look at some of the athletes that maybe dipped into Grand Slam. Not all of them, but maybe dipped into Grand Slam and had done like an indoors. I'm thinking some of the Americans here, I feel like it told on them in the champs. One thing I think they need to sort out, on the note of football, need some kind of like VAR decision to be made there and then, like almost during play or within 5 minutes of it after, because this whole debacle about, athletes being DQ'd, then appealing, then getting back into it, or there being like big delays in releasing like when finals are going to be based on decisions. Like it just needs to be called like there and then. And I also think, I don't want to bang on about it, but I also think some of the decisions were like far too soft. And I'm referring to the Hocker 1500 meter semi-final debacle, because there was a little bit of argy-bargy, but if it wasn't on the home straight and that was at the start, he wouldn't have got DQ'd. If that was in the opening 100 meters, you see more contact in the opening 100 meters in the 1500 than that. But I mean, we could go down a proper rabbit hole with whether Hocker should have been DQ'd or not, but I feel like we should focus in on some of the good things, some of the highlights from the games. So.
Yeah, but there's a bit of context there as well, isn't it? Because if it was early on in the race, it's everybody's sort of jostling for position, whereas when it is at the end, there's a different emphasis on it's like actually you're trying to prevent somebody else and take their position. So
But I also think as well, if we go more into that context, like look at where the athletes were going that were in front of them. They were both going back over, I thought, as well. And the amount of contact I thought it was minimal. But
one thing that he could do differently is just be in a better position.
Well, exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
so
he could have been.
taking positional risks.
Yeah.
And there's some athletes who do this a lot.
Yeah.
And
he is one.
Sometimes it gets.
He's always on the rail.
Sometimes it comes well, and sometimes it doesn't. So Neil Gorley's another one who I've never seen him race without sticking within an inch of the inside curve.
Yeah.
And there's so many times where he's been really lucky, and there's a gap opened up. So usually, what does happen is if you do stick to the curb, then when you get to the home straight, somebody does drift out in front of you because they're aware of somebody on their shoulder, so they move out and it does open a gap to both. But there's no guaranteed. And if that person starts going backwards and somebody goes round, it's like that is a terrible position to be in. So it's a risk reward. You're running shorter. So that I guess if you're a 1500 meter runner, a surefire way to run a faster 1500, if you're in the exact same shape, is to run a shorter line.
Yeah.
If you think of the Kipchoge sub 2 hour marathon, the main chunk of time for them was, well, if you just run on this exact line, you're going to run 200 meters less than when you run the other marathons, and you're going around corners and you're taking the wire. So there is that element. And I think if somebody's not from a middle distance background, or they're not used to competing at the sharp end of races and they're just watching these things on the TV, they hear about being boxed in and these positional things, but they don't really grasp it. I don't think that's talked enough, that they don't actually analyse it enough to inform the viewer what we're on about when you say, like, when people are in either a good or a bad position. But I mean, Hocker wasn't in a good position in that instance in particular. Gawley hasn't been in a few positions. And yeah, one person who was in the right position at the right time was Jake Whiteman.
So we're going with Jake Whiteman for one of your highlights of the games then.
Yeah, so I know we got there eventually, didn't we? But yeah.
Oh, yeah, classic Chris Parr
Yeah.
passion, this.
No, I think one of my highlights was Jake. I mean, obviously, I'm always slightly biased towards the 1500 meters because for me, it's the perfect event. Yeah, his run was absolutely sensational.
Yeah.
He ran it tactically perfectly for him, so he absolutely executed everything he could. He got beat on the line. There's nothing Jake could have done more there. That Nada coming past him on a dart, sorry for the pronunciation. If you watch it back, he was actually in not a great position.
Yeah.
So if he hadn't won, he would have been kicking himself going, I should have moved earlier.
Yeah.
I should have been out the box. I should have been out the curb. So he actually ran. He's won the race, right? So he's got it right in the end. But he didn't actually run it tactically as astute as Jake.
Yeah.
So if Jake had won it, everybody would have been talking afterwards going, oh yeah, if he was in a better position, he would have won it. He had the momentum. So for me, it was the right result in the end. But yeah,
mate,
incredible result.
12-4. Close that last 112-4. Like, if you're within striking distance, how many athletes are closing quicker than 13 seconds down that home straight? I don't think many. And yeah, I think what was telling about it is Jake said he got the silver, but it felt like he'd won anyway.
Yeah.
And I think it's like you mentioned earlier, context with everything. Before them games, I didn't have Whiteman down as getting on the podium. But then when I seen him in the semis, I was like, hold up. This boy is back here. And I think that totally changed things and spun it on its head a bit. But yeah, I think everything has a bit of context. And we mentioned before this, obviously, Georgia and Keeley in the 800, phenomenal performances to pick up 2 medals in that final there. And this is no discredit to them, but it felt a bit more expected with, say, Georgia or Keeley to get on the podium. And I think that's a fair thing to say, given what Keeley had done in previous years and when she returned back and dropped a 154 opener.
Yeah, so that wasn't expected. Like, to come back as strong wasn't
expected.
Yeah,
exactly.
But once she did,
then you thought, right, she's going to be getting on that podium. And then the same with Georgia as well. The way she's became established at the 800 meters this year, I think it's a phenomenal achievement. But again, you would expect if she didn't get on the podium, there would be an air of disappointment around that because she is so good and so is Keeley. Whereas with Jake coming back from the injury and the season he'd had up to that final was okay. I think 3:31 season's best maybe, which in the grand scheme of things now, where the 1500 of that is totally different.
Yeah, I think Georgia's got an element of Kelly Holmes in her now, where naturally you felt she was a 1500 runner. It was the same with Holmes, but then started to drop to 800 and you're thinking, well, why? It feels like you've got a better chance at the 15, but then getting in the medals.
Yeah.
And then I think it's going to come good for Georgia.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have passed her doing a double and winning them both in the next game. She's a really good racer. Yeah. She judges it well.
She's a phenomenal racer.
She doesn't get pulled along.
Phenomenal racer.
I mean, it was amazing for Keeley to come from where she was this year to get to the final and get a medal. But she, no offence, I think raced tactically naively. And,
She raced Morrell.
Yeah, they raced each other. So they beat each other and Georgia ran her own race and judged it well. But those two beat each other because there's only so much you've got in the tank. And every time you go for a little surge, and like Morrell wanted to get to the front.
Drains the battery, 100%.
They both wanted to get to the front. Keeley wanted to get to the front and control it. Morrell wanted to get to the front. Just go, well, just have it then. Just get to the front because she probably wasn't going to back down.
Yeah.
So she could have just put it on and they just sat right behind her on the shoulder. The pressure would have been there and then just wait. And when you make a move decisive.
Yeah.
But she decided to get into a bit of a ding-dong far too early. Every time you do that, you're losing a bit, and they both paid for that, didn't they?
I think another few that stood out to me, Amy Hunt's silver in the 200. I thought the way that she navigated the championships in general and the way she comes across as well, I thought was class, utter class. And to get in that final and then raise a game like that and nab a silver medal. I thought that was great. So that was another standout for me. I liked Hocker's redemption story in the 5K.
Yeah,
I thought that was classy. It was absolutely rolling that last 400 meters. Like, you're looking at it at 400 and thinking, how's he going to get a medal here? He's out of it. And you look at it at 300 and you start to think, but then that last 200, he was like flying. I'm sure it was 25.5 last 200, which is insane. Gressier in the 10K as well.
Oh yeah, Jimmy. So I thought that was class because it is.
I love it. I love it when the apple cart rocked and tipped right over, which is what Jimmy Gressier had done in that 10K.
Yeah. So for quite a number of years now, we've seen some really aggressive racing in the 10Ks. So if you go to the Farah era, although they didn't do it hard enough, they tried at least at some point. There was quite a lot like Cheptegei and others who took it to Farah from early on.
Yeah.
They put surges in, they tried to go from a long way out thinking, this guy, we know he's such a good sprinter, we'll have to try and run out of him before that. So they went for it. Whereas this time, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Nobody really took the bull by the horns and went, I can only win this by going hard from a long way out. None of them did it, which then it starts to just leave the door ajar for those guys who, on a out-and-out paced race, would get gapped.
Yeah.
But the shorter you make in the race, you turn it to a 5K runner's race, then you turn it to a 3K runner's race, then you turn it to a 1500 race.
Yeah.
And then you've got the conditions, the heat, the positional, but it was absolutely fantastic. He had them, he was quite way back as well. He wasn't like right on the shoulder. No, it was absolutely fantastic. It was a really good race.
I like that about the games. Like, there was a lot of races, and I think that's why the podiums were so hard to call, because they became races and the predictability got booted out the window. You've got your few bankers that are probably going to get on there on the podium, but there was a lot where you wouldn't have called it. The men's 3K steeplechase. I think like the women's distance events and the women's middle distance events were easier to call. I do think, like, the 1500 Kipyegon, Chibet, and Kipyegon at the 5K and the 10K as well. I thought those were the bankers that they're going to be there or thereabouts.
What I didn't get about Kipyegon in the 5K was she made all the same mistakes that she made like a year ago. And she, as the 1500 runner who's got far more speed, she didn't need to be the one. But she didn't need to be the one at 500, 600 to go, going to the front and making the effort to be the rabbit to get. It should have been the other way around. I don't know why she thought she could run away from Chibet. It's just you just got to sit in. I know it's hot. It's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But for me, she should have just sat, and then when you go decisive, because her turn of pace is obviously faster, but a 1500 is different to a 5K. But it was an interesting one.
It was.
It was just when it got to that like last 500, you were like, are you going to do it differently to last time? No. Are you going to do it exactly the same and get the same outcome and then be disappointed? Well, sometimes you've got to just try something different.
Yeah. Kenyan sweep, really, wasn't it, in all the middle distance, long distance events on the female side of things, but very different on the men's side. One thing I did absolutely love at the games, though, was like the whole like speculation around what kind of Jakob was going to turn up. I just think it shows how much he's got the sport eaten out of his hand. The speculation about what kind of shape Jakob was going to turn up in. And he came in the 1500 meter heats and he bombed out in the heat. And I think, for him, like having the bottle to turn up and toe the line, knowing that he's nowhere near where he should be over 1500 meters and he's not going to be able to compete with these dads, but he still got out and towed the line. I thought that was class. Then to come out and have a go in the 5K, and you've seen him working in the 5K heats. He was working like a dog. That wasn't easy for him to get through that heat, but he got through it. And then he gets in that final. And the pace was like, it fluctuated slightly and it slowed at one point. I think it was maybe 3 laps to go and Jakob hit the front And I just thought, as soon as he moved to the front, I just thought, that is so ballsy and so cool, because you know that you're probably not in the shape to win this, but the body might not be there, but the mind and the heart, you're still willing to get on the front. And he got on the front and he started churning. And there was a split second or longer than a split second, but there was a good 400 meters there where everyone in the pack danced to his tune, because it was almost like autopilot, like Jakob's back on the front. We just follow him because he's the boss here. And yes, they flooded round him with 400 to go, but I just thought, you know what, the way he just cruised up to the front and thought, right, we'll go. I thought it was cool as hell.
I mean, I really hope that the best of Jakob is still to come, because a year ago, people were talking about eventually breaking Elgar Rouge's world record at 1500 after he broke the world record.
That's a shout.
He is a young guy still, like, although he's been around for ages, but there is a miles on the clock element to endurance running as well. So he's been doing highly intense training from a very, very young age. So hopefully this adds fuel to the fire. He's obviously still got it mentally and physically, but hopefully this adds a bit of fuel to the fire just for him to come back and go, nah, I'm not getting beat for another 5 years.
Yeah.
Usain Bolt style, just keep coming back and doing it again and doing it again.
I think out of anyone, like if he gets back to what he was, I think out of anyone, if any of the current middle distance, like 1500 meter guys are going to break that world record, it's Jakob. But on the
race,
in the paced race set up, I think he breaks it. On the flip side of that, though, I don't think he wins a major at the over 1500 again. I know it sounds odd, but there's so many others that they know the model that he's going to run, and there's a lot of them that can run 3:27 now. And if they leave it slow and it's a kicker's race, they outkick him. But I think in a paced race from the front to get under 3:26, I don't think anyone can live with him.
Yeah, I've mentioned that. I think that there's what do I know? But there's still a tactic he hasn't really tried at that championship level, which is only getting to the front at, say, like 700 or 600 to go, and getting faster every 100 meters and try to burn them off that way.
Yeah.
He falls into temptation and goes sooner than that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they follow him and sit on him. But if he hangs a little bit longer, so he's waiting, thinking, if I leave it later, they're going to sprint faster than me. But if he gets the sweet spot where when he hits the front, he just gets faster every 100, then he would still be able to burn them off, I think. And maybe you get a team tactic. I mean, look at when Elgar Rouge eventually won the Olympics, when he had his mate in the final, who pulled him round for...
What was his mate called?
Was it Druich? No, I can't remember.
No, it wasn't.
No, I can't remember now, but he was... team tactics to get there.
Yeah.
But even then, that was still what Elgar Rouge deployed, and Lagat came past him, if you remember, and then he came back past him again.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's over for Jakob at 15, but it is incredibly hard to combine the 15 and the 5K. He's made it look easy. Like Elgar Rouge did it for a short period of time in his career, like right towards the end of his career at the championship level.
Mm-hmm.
But not many have combined the 15 and the 5K.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot of 5K, 10Ks, and some 8:15s, not that many 15.5s, and a very rare 4.8.
Yeah.
Right? So the groupings are usually 8:15 and 5:10.
Yeah.
So to hover between them two so well, I guess he's got to decide what he wants to do. Does he want to go after the 1500 and then move up? Because he's obviously got it at the longer distances as well. So if he's got the ambition, he could go on to chase records at half marathon and marathon. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing him in Hocker. A few ding-dongs in the future over 5K, because I think that's a fascinating one. And that is probably a subject for another episode. The games as a whole then, what you're saying about the way it was delivered in Tokyo?
I think it was great. So a lot of the stuff you've already mentioned about the different timings and stuff were good. There seemed to be just enough events in each session.
Yeah.
For it to not... It was good that I could watch a couple of hours and then I was done. I think sometimes when they put it on and it's like 4, 5, 6 hours and it feels like nothing's happening in between. It was good.
And you feel like more people were engaged with it?
I felt more people were engaged with it. I think if you contrast it to what we were saying earlier in the year about the whole Grand Slam track stuff, the field events obviously make a big difference to the atmosphere and to keep the momentum of the meeting going. It was amazing seeing Mondo do another world record.
Yeah.
It would be great to find out like how high can he actually go.
Yeah.
But I think like with Bubka, he'll eventually retire and everyone will still know he could have gone higher.
Yeah.
So it's that weird nuance with the pole vault and the high jump where you can just like edge it by a centimetre every time.
Yeah.
But I think the whole thing was class.
Yeah.
I feel like they've upped their game on Instagram and stuff like that
Definitely,
as well.
yeah.
Really good engagement content.
Yeah.
I still think there's a lot that they can do, like the tactical analysis, things like that. But yeah,
but overall, good games.
Really good, yeah.
Yeah. Right, well, that's enough from me and Mr. Race Director Chris Parr. So please jump onto our YouTube channel, subscribe to it, give it a like, give it a share if you enjoy these episodes, and we'll be back for more Top Flight with me and the Race Director. So for now, goodbye.